go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, Todd Haselhorst. He is the founder of Heale Labs. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Damn, I nailed that. Doesn't usually happen on the first day. Heale stands for Hyper-Enabled Autonomous Logistics Ecosystem. Clever, but a mouthful. Very clever. Who came up with that?
So some friends and I were throwing around some different names and acronyms, and it just sounded right. We just landed on it.
I like it.
And ultimately, the outcome of what we're building is a hyper-enabled autonomous logistics ecosystem. It's going to take us some time to get there, but also ultimately, not only automating data, but also automating shipments. And as we move towards autonomous vehicles and stuff like that, we want to be the infrastructure that moves the future of logistics.
Okay, but let's get into that, because why I wanted to talk to you is I've got 17 years experience in the transport industry, mainly with fuel tankers. And I saw what you guys were doing, and I'm like, this is interesting, because transporters are notoriously, they've got a lot of hesitations when you bring in new technology, right? So, and you are in the technology space now, because you're not a transport company per se, or logistics company, but you're more on the technology side. The tech company. Okay. So how are you marrying the tech aspect that you want to do, right? Or what you guys are doing with this traditional transport close-knit system, the old school ways of thinking?
Yeah, so great question. I think when people think about transportation, they do see it as kind of a laggard industry that is just now in the last 10 years getting around to digitization. And so that the freight tech innovation that's happened in the last decade has actually created a nice foundation that we can just plug into. We are really behind the scenes as data infrastructure that connects into the existing systems like transportation management systems, electronic logging devices, and enterprise resource planning systems that all these companies ultimately use and rely on a day-to-day basis. And what we're doing is we're using, Web3 technology to ultimately create a master record for that thing, whether it's an item, a box, a pallet, a truck, trailer, container, warehouse, whatever it is, right? So it gives these companies the ability to move into Web3 without them even realizing that they're using Web3,
that they're doing it. Yeah. So is that, when you're talking to customers, is that what is some of your value propositions? I'm assuming, okay, that's one of them. What are the others?
Yeah, so the value propositions that we bring the end customers, who are shippers, freight brokers, carriers, freight forwarders, all the different parties that are involved in moving something from point A to point B, is that ultimately we provide them with a single source of truth so that everybody's working around the same data and the same information to coordinate a shipment. What you have today is you have all these systems that are out there. Those systems are very poorly connected with each other. And so companies are basically doing version control, trying to figure out what is the accurate state of information for that particular shipment. And so shippers, brokers, carriers, freight forwarders, they spend a lot of money collecting that information through text, email, phone calls, and things like that. Yeah. And so we're just basically creating a decentralized repository for all this data so that everybody's using that same information and keeping that master record updated with relevant, real-time, up-to-date information.
Yeah, so interesting. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm not so clued up on the tech side as it relates to the transport, but I'm going to ask you some questions because I want to know. And please talk to me like I'm 6 years old. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I read on your homepage that you speak about something called TIDEN. It stands for Token Incentivized Data Infrastructure Network. And you said something about it specifically addresses the dirty data problem in logistics. So I think my question is, what is TIDEN, and then what is dirty data?
Yeah, so Titan is a derivative of depend. And what we're doing is we're leveraging a lot of the same thought processes that went into depend, which depend projects use tokens to incentivize the creation of a network, right?
Okay.
Ultimately, it could be a hardware network, a wireless network, some sort of hardware network. In the case of what we're doing, the hardware is already there and the systems are already there. So we're using our token to incentivize people to use our data infrastructure network to facilitate their shipments and to process transactions. And so that leads to streamlined shipment coordination, faster payments, reduction in back office costs by 30%, and increase ultimately in profit margin for everybody that's involved in that transaction. So those are big, big things. And the dirty data problem goes back to what I was saying earlier about you have all these different systems. Those systems are poorly connected. And not only that, one system may call a data object. They may say, oh, this is address one, and this person may call it primary address, and another system may call it home address, right? So the engineers that are connecting all these systems together have to go in and address one equals primary address in this one, home address in this one. And so by normalizing all that data and then also validating that data, we're able to create a cleaner data set that we then tokenize. And then everybody who's plugged into it is basically mapped to that normalized standard and keeping that master record up to date.
I get you. So, but basically bringing everyone on the same page.
Yeah. Bringing everyone on the same page without them having to change their operations, their day-to-day operations, without them having to change their internal systems, without them having to change their data architecture or data models, and without them changing their operating model.
That's very cool. How did you come about this solution? Or no, sorry, how did you come about this problem? I'm assuming somewhere down the line you saw something, here is something missing. Where was that?
Yeah, so I built and sold 2 different tech platforms in the space, and each time that we
sorry, yeah. So this is not your this isn't your first rodeo. Okay.
Oh,
okay,
no,
cool.
no. And we had this problem ourselves multiple times, and we spent about 35% of our budget on doing these integrations, just trying to integrate these tools together, managing these integrations. And if somebody changed their API or they changed something in the connection or the integration, that broke the integration, then we had to go back and fix it. And so we ourselves had this problem. And in 2016, one day I've been very deeply immersed in Web3 since 2012. And so I remember when it was, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Peercoin were 1, 2, and 3. Then you had, conversations about colored coins, and then you had BitShares, and you had Proto Shares, and you had Ethereum and smart contracts, and all that happening in 2013. And so I saw the rise of this technology on one side, and then as somebody in the logistics industry on the other side, there was a convergence that happened in 2016, at least in my mind. One day I was shaving my head and cutting my hair, and all of a sudden I just had this flash of insight.
Yeah.
Where the whole idea came to me. And it was very profound experience, because it was one of those aha moments. And this was in 2016, right? 8 years ago. And I knew at the time that the technology wasn't right, and that it wasn't mature enough, and ultimately I had to wait. I had to wait for 6 years. And the reason I had to wait is because you didn't have layer 2 scaling protocols. You didn't have account abstraction. You didn't have zero knowledge proofs. You didn't have a lot of the core infrastructure that we have now that is necessary to actually do this in a way that that where from a user's experience perspective, a truck driver can use it, a dock worker can use it, or um, uh, people within the industry can use the technology, right? And so I had to wait so it could become scalable, low cost, high throughput, all the wonderful things that we have in current technology and infrastructure in Web3 today.
How was that waiting for you? Was it a conscious waiting, or was it sort of, were you agonizing over it? Were you like, listen, when is this going to happen now? Like, what was that for you? Because 6 years is a very long time.
It is. Yeah. So what was, I think it wasn't agonizing for me. I knew that there was going to be the right timing at some point. And what I did get the opportunity to do is see others try it before me or go before me and learn from the mistakes that they made. And there was quite a few out there that attempted and ultimately failed because it was bad timing. It was the wrong approach. They didn't understand tokenomics. They didn't understand tokenization, and really this technology is very complex, so it's hard to actually understand the technology itself. But I had an advantage because I've seen the migration all the way from the early days, and followed a lot of the innovation and leadership that was happening in the space. So I just waited patiently, and as I saw the technology mature and as I saw different implementations, try to solve it with the wrong approach and the wrong technology, and learned from those mistakes and refined, and here we are.
It's so important for startups because you can be right, but if you're at the wrong time, you're still wrong. Doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter. You said offline that I asked you if you guys were fundraising, and you said, yeah, you are busy. Talk to me about the fundraising environment now for startups and like the people you're talking to. Is it what is it compared to your previous raises? What is the situation on the ground at the moment?
Yeah, great question. So we started in 2022. We had our pre-seed investment that we had secured, and we started building, and then the whole FTX situation happened.
Yeah.
And so that really hurt not only the industry, but
it hurt Tom. If it hurts Tom Brady, then it's, I mean, I know he just got roasted, but if it hurts Tom Brady, it's gonna hurt you as well. So yeah, believe me.
Okay, yeah. So we got, with all of that, we got punched in the mouth, for lack of a better word. Then we went into the spring, and you had the Silicon Valley Bank, you had the Signature Bank, you had the collapse of the banks in the industry, or at least connected to the industry. So that made things worse. And so 2023 was a brutal year, and we just really focused on survival. It was something that we had to focus on getting to the bull market, because we knew that we needed to have something ready to start the race at the beginning of the bull market, and that was going to be the timing and when things shifted. And ultimately things are shifting from that perspective. The capital markets are opening up, and on the Web3 side, you're seeing a lot more deals being done. And for us, it's uniquely challenging because we're doing something that's very new, not only in logistics but also in Web3. To my knowledge, there aren't any tokens out there that are issuing rewards based off of behaviors on top of data infrastructure in a $9 trillion industry. And so there's a lot of unique challenges that come with that. And so we've just been, putting one foot in front of the other and continuing to operate day to day, and really just do the startup entrepreneur thing.
I hear you. Last question before I let you leave. You touched on it earlier, something that's fascinating me: autonomous driving, autonomous delivery, and in the future of Internet of Things, everything is connected. How do you see autonomous deliveries affecting, I would say, first your industry or the transport industry, and then how does it play into what you guys are doing? Are you cognizant of that? Like, are you thinking about it?
Yeah. So I would say that I think autonomous vehicles are a ways off. There's a lot, on the regulatory side that needs to be taken care of. There's insurance. There's all sorts of issues that need to be worked through. And so I think and also I'd say there's some even on the technology side, but so we're a little ways off from that. The way that I've always looked at Heale is as a data settlement and transaction settlement layer for the logistics industry. So it doesn't matter, if it's people or if it's machines that are facilitating the data exchange and the shipments and the transactions. This infrastructure is really built to create an ecosystem for those types of things. So, we designed this in a way that as the industry changes its state, the network and the technology also changes alongside of that to adapt to changing conditions in the logistics market.
I love it. You've basically future-proofed the business. That's what you've done.
Yeah.
Because even if our robot overlords come, then you're still in business.
Well, yeah, they need data at the end of the day, and I have this. I had another aha moment a couple years ago where I realized that ultimately the AI requires data, and it requires good data, clean data, accurate data, because it's ultimately garbage in, garbage out. And so it can't make decisions with bad information. It can't make good decisions with bad information.
Yeah.
And so I had this realization that, economies of the future could be ultimately data economies, that, people generate data in their day-to-day activities, and the quality of that data, the accuracy of that data. Ultimately, they could get rewarded for creating that data, collecting that data, and providing that data to, decentralized AIs that are using that data to provide products, services, make decisions, and things along those lines. So it's kind of a
is this something that you're working on in the future, or is this something that you're working on now?
Well, so this is a core foundation of what Heale actually is. This data infrastructure. This data infrastructure, if you think about it, we're using our token to incentivize people to collect data, to create data, and to do behaviors that ultimately streamline the shipment lifecycle, right? So the same thought process that's what we're doing, and that ultimately creates a data economy within logistics that we'll see where that goes into the future, but I see that as like a infrastructure for building a data economy of logistics that we'll see how what cool technologies and tools and AIs and ML tooling can be built on top of.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, you don't know how long you have to wait before the second aha drops.
Yeah. And I know there's people out there that are way smarter than I am, and I just want to provide them with the tools that they need to leverage this data to create tooling and bring about efficiencies in the industry.
Awesome. Todd, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to go and connect with you and Heale, where can they do that?
Yeah, so you can find us on X at Heale Network. You can find me personally. My handle is 0x Todd Guru. Or you can go to our Telegram channel at Heale Community. And or you can go to our website and you can see all of our different community channels and engage.
And go check them out. We'll put all the links in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.
To our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.